Welcome to another episode on the AMT podcast. We do have Team News and Tix back as a guest on the pod. So thanks for taking the time to come back on.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Now, before I ask you for your thoughts on the main fight, you know, in the preview you did mention that Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen, the odds were all wrong on that one, which turned out to be quite prophetic. So tell me your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I predominantly trade football, and you just don't get misprices like this. So you'll have something that you will say was more, but for me, this is the biggest misprice I've ever seen. And obviously, I was quite strong about the price being wrong when we done our preview pod. Like anyone who's followed Dave Allen's career, like I know him a little bit. I've spoken to him a few times, but even if I hadn't, just as a fan, you'll know that he's way too stubborn to get taken out early.
Yeah.
He's obviously been in with Ortiz and done, I think it was 10 rounds with Dylan White. 10, he got stopped in the last by a juiced up Yoka. Johnny Fisher is not in the same conversation of as any of those names I've just mentioned at the time Dave Allen fought them. So people thought he was just going to go in there and get steamrolled in a round. It was never going to happen. And Fisher's never been in deep waters with someone who can survive. He's never really been in deep waters. So that was where I just saw the 1.1 was all wrong. I mean, obviously, to be honest, I didn't think that, I know that he didn't get the decision, but Allen won. Let's cut the crap. Dave Allen won the fight. I know he didn't get the decision. I didn't necessarily have Dave Allen winning, but I just knew 1.1 was, as I said, for me, the biggest misprice I've ever seen within what I trade.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen much of Johnny Fisher, but I've seen a lot of Dave Allen, and just the way he fights, he knows he's limited, probably British level tops. He could get to European level. I know he fought for the European title, but, he just doesn't swing enough. But when he does land, he just absolutely loads up, and you can just see the weight behind his punches. I think that first knockdown, I think it was in round 5, I think that was to the back of the head. In my opinion, it was. So I didn't read too much into it. But the way he followed up and then he caught him clean. And we kind of know the level Dave Allen is at least people who watch boxing. But Johnny Fisher, for someone who we don't know too much about, this is probably only the second fight I've seen of his. He looks like he, mixes up well, to the head and body. He looks like a good boxer. But his ring generalship was so poor. I mean, when he got dropped and then he just comes forward and starts swinging, it's a 10-8 round. You've lost. You just got to coast it, get your legs back. His legs were like Bambi and he's trying to swing it out. He's trying to go toe-to-toe with Dave Allen in the same round. I think he's been found out at this level. I really don't see him going past British level if that's how he fights. I don't know what your thoughts are on Johnny Fisher's ability.
Yeah, I'm not going to say he can't go past British because he's a baby. He's had whatever that was last night. I think maybe his 12th fight, a pro. He had no amateur experience, and he's in sparring with all the top heavyweights, and he's a baby in terms of heavyweight. So I'm not going to go as far as say but he can't go beyond British level. But at the moment, I think that's sort of where he's at, and it depends. Look. People go, British level Fabio Wardley. It's not. I know Fabio Wardley holds a belt, but he's above British level. So you're looking at Dave Allen, as you said, British level, and Fisher's around that with a bit more ring craft, a bit more generalship, but that will come. But I mean, I have seen quite a bit of him because to be one of my friends who's a heavyweight boxer, like no one would know him, but he's always said to me, like, he wants to fight Fisher because of Fisher's name and the tickets he sells. It would be a big win. It'd be a breakout win, and he doesn't rate Fisher at all. He actually rang me straight after the fight, just after the scorecards were announced. I said it was a robbery, and he said, I've been telling you for 18 months that Fisher's no good or nowhere near the level people think he is. So I have seen quite a bit of him, but it's difficult because he does punch very hard, and he's quite quick with it. So he's used to landing a 2 or 3 punch combo, and it's good night. And it was always going to be interesting what happened when he hit someone and they still stood in front of him. And again, that was why I wanted to take him on at odds of 1.1, because I was very, very confident that no one just lands on Dave Allen and puts him out. I don't think he's ever been down properly. Like he's taken, Price was stopped in the corner. Yoka was stopped on his feet. I can't think of him being down off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. Yeah. So it was always, as I said, it's all wrong for Johnny Fisher, that fight. I think, if you put them against other opponents, Fisher is a better fighter than Allen, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
But
he is. He is.
you know, styles make fights, and
Yeah.
Dave Allen is all wrong for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was just pure dynamite. And I've always known Dave Allen's had power. Like I said, he really loads up on his shots, and he's quite big set. He's quite heavy sort of build. And when he lands on you, I mean that shot he landed on Brown, to the body, took him straight out. And I think a couple of other guys, he chinned. When he rocks you, that's so. I think credit to Fisher, for taking the punches and coming forward. But you think he can get past British level? I mean, do you think that when you're 25 years old, you've been boxing a certain way, you've never been in the deep water? Do you think you learn and evolve as a fighter when you've got those sort of bad habits? Because I've never seen it happen. You look at Amir Khan. I was going to say, when you look at what Amir Khan did early in his career against Bradis Prescott, when he got dropped a couple of times and he still tried to swing it out, and then he'd done that against Kell Brook at the tail end of his career. He got dropped and then still tried to go toe to toe and swing it out. And you look at Eubank Jr. when he got dropped by Liam Smith. He didn't coast out the round. He tried to get right back into it. So I think ring generalship is just, I don't know if you can train it. I think you can train skill to an extent, but ring generalship, thinking on the spot in the heat of the moment, I think is quite telling about a fighter, how they respond to adversity. And what I saw from Johnny Fisher was hot, absolutely, for sure. But his tactics were all wrong. And if you try doing that at European level or world level, you're going to get knocked out cold. I think he was in hospital straight after the fight last night as well. Imagine what would happen to him if he got clocked by Zhang or Dubois and then tries to run straight back in.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about people that are at world level. I mean, Daniel's obviously world champion. Zhang is a world level on anyone's books. I think you can teach it. And again, as I said, he's a baby in the fight game with no amateur experience. Mm-hmm. And I think with Khan, personally for me, Amir Khan's the most disrespected British boxer possibly ever.
Yeah,
he was a two-weight world champion.
Oh yeah.
So the Bradis is super early on. Then he goes on to be a two-weight. I mean, for me, the Brook fight is. I mean, it was a payday for both of them. Khan was juiced up. It's the most nonsense fight ever. Brook was changing gloves in the ring. It's one of them. If I could erase it from my memory, I would, and I'm not. I wouldn't take anything from that. But I think in between, Khan did show he'd learned. Who's the other one? Eubank Jr. I'm by no means a Eubank Jr. fan. I'm not having him at all, to be honest. But the Liam Smith dropped him with an elbow, if we're honest, and an elbow to essentially around the temple is going to be always hard to recover from. Look, I agree completely with what you said. Eubank got it all wrong, but and he probably would do that again. But that's from the experience of never having been down. I think for Fisher, and again, I'm not saying this as a fan because I'm pretty neutral on him, but I think he would have learned more from last night than he has in his however many fights and however many spars he's had in his whole career put together. I think go doing that because he's able to learn from it because it's happened. Whereas say Eubank Jr., it had never happened before, and the same as Fisher last night. So they just reacted on that instinct of if I don't know if you've ever boxed, but if someone hit you in a street fight and you was down, you'd want to jump back up to be safe. That is a natural human instinct, and you have to train out of that. But there's no way to train how to get up from a knockdown because we don't stand in the gym chinning each other and go on to practice getting up.
Yeah. Okay, I hope you're right. I mean, I'm rooting for Johnny Fisher. I'm rooting for any fighter that's British. It's just that, from what I've seen, any fighter who lacks ring generalship, at British level, when they go up in level, they tend to get found out again. That's just my opinion on what we've seen. I hope I'm wrong. He looks exciting. He is talented. And if his career is guided in the right way, I mean, who knows what could happen? You just look where Dubois was a couple of years ago. I mean, he's always been rated as a talent, but he came through clutch in the last few fights, and now he's world champion. So I wish Johnny Fisher all the best. But as for Dave Allen, I think that rematch has to happen. He has to put that to bed if he's to get.
He said he doesn't particularly want it, Dave.
Really?
He said he'll take it if Fisher wants it, but he said he's not bothered because he likes Johnny Fisher and he knows he's all wrong for him.
Yeah, I mean, that card as an undercard, it's going to get attention. So on another Saudi card, I'd be happy to see it. I'd love to see that fight again. So at the end of the day, I don't know what Dave Allen's. I don't know what his ambition is. saying he doesn't want it.
British title, always been British title.
Who's
The
got
thing
the
is,
title now?
I don't think it will happen. Huh?
Who's got the title? Do you know?
Fabio Wardley, but it'll become vacant, and I think Adelaide just beat Dakers, and I think he's been ordered against Moses for it, but I don't know if Moses will bother with that. It's a waste of time. Obviously, actually, we're going to talk about Moses in a minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I disagree. I think if they do run it back, I don't think it'll be in Saudi. I think it's a headline event in the UK, and I know people will go, "Oh, it's not a headline fight," but Fisher sold 7,000 tickets against Babic with a pretty crap undercard.
Yeah.
Allen is one, a bigger name than Babic, and two, much bigger fan base. There's a case for that selling out like a quite decent venue as a headliner. Maybe not the O2's 18,000. That would be a stretch unless there's a decent undercard. But I can't think of anywhere that's around 10, 11,000 off the top of my head. But I think that's what the amount of tickets that would do. So it's one of them that for quite cheap. A promoter, say it is Matchroom, for quite a cheap fight, because neither of them are going to demand big purses. They get a sellout of a decent crowd. Like 10, 11,000 is not to be sniffed at. We're so used to hearing 80, 90,000 now that we forget that most fights don't do anywhere near that.
Yeah, no, I agree. How big is the copper box? I'm not sure how many fit in there.
I'm not. So he had 6.5 or 7 in there against Babic, and it was quite close to 4. I'm not sure it's completely sold out, so I think that's probably around what it does. But again, don't quote me on that. I wouldn't be putting money on it.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens in London, one of the smaller arenas, I'd be happy to go to it. That is a fun fight. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I have reignited my interest again in Dave Allen. So I'll be following what he gets up to, and hopefully he does get a shot at the British title. But moving on from that, this kid Moses Ituma, however you pronounce it. I mean, he's just come out of nowhere, literally. I mean, what was he, 18, 19? It's crazy. 19, yeah. He turned pro last year, and he's already fighting on the second, on the fight below the main card in Saudi Arabia. So what do you think about him and his prospects, and how far do you expect him to go?
Yeah, I mean, look, within boxing, he hasn't come out of nowhere. There's a famous story, and I'm not sure if you've heard it or anyone listening's heard it, but he turned up to spar Lawrence Okoli when he was 15. He turned up in school uniform.
I haven't heard this. No.
Yeah. So they had to delay the spar till 4 o'clock because he had to finish school and get there. And, with sparring stories, no one will ever say how it went, but apparently he gave Lawrence hell. And, Lawrence may have given him hell back. But yeah, he turned up in school uniform and had to delay it because he couldn't do 3 o'clock because he was still at school. So within boxing, he hasn't come out of nowhere, so to speak. But I don't think anyone saw his acceleration this quickly. Look, he'll be a future world champion. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Obviously, depending on what happens with Usyk next, how the belts become fragmented, I would imagine, depending on the Usyk situation, he's probably a world champion within 2 years, possibly 3. So world champion by 22, I reckon.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you up. Just hold that thought for a second. Talking about coming out of nowhere, but how does a 15-year-old in a school uniform get to spar with Lawrence Okoli and then go on to become a pro and have this sort of trajectory in his career? I mean, how did that even happen? Because I haven't heard this.
Yeah, I mean, he was known about, he had a good, it's not amateur career, junior career, I guess. And then he essentially skipped the senior amateur scene. I guess his age is bad because he wouldn't have made the Olympics this summer because he wouldn't have been on the squad for long enough. So he would have had to wait 4 years in the amateur scene, and obviously he had no interest in doing that. But yeah, within the junior circuits, he was well known.
Yeah. Who promotes him? Is it Frank?
Frank.
Okay, no wonder, because he made his bloody his debut, I think, on the Yard Better BF card, wasn't it? So
I'm not sure if that was his debut. I was actually at his last fight. I was there when he beat Marius Wack.
Marius Wack, yeah. I think Marius Wack has become somewhat of a gatekeeper now. But I'm pretty. Just check this one. I'm pretty sure he made his debut on Better BF Yard. This was at the start of last year. I'm pretty sure it was at Wembley. I'll have to check into that. But the way his career has gone in the space of 2 years. I mean, at 19 years old, is just incredible. And he's just a freight train right now. So he's definitely one to look out for the future. And he's just in line of a ton of British talent. We just tend to produce so much talent in the heavyweight division. But having said that, with that out of the way, obviously, we got the main fight, Usyk and Fury, which I think me and you, we previewed beforehand. Obviously, I'd done a write-up, with posting my bets. Everything came in clutch. We both predicted an Usyk win. Not exactly surprising there. But what were your thoughts on the fight, and did it pan out how you expected? How did you score the fight, first of all?
So I don't score even rounds. So I had it 7-5. Okay, I had it 7-5 Usyk, but there was an argument that one of those rounds was equal, and I favoured Usyk in it. So worst case, I had it 6-5 Usyk with a split round, but because I don't score them, just because judges so rarely score them, it's not that. Like, if I have a round that I think is completely equal, I will still find what one of them I prefer, just because I know judges very rarely score it like that. Like, I don't think there was any 10-10s on it yesterday. So yeah, I had it. So yeah, I had it 7-5. But as I said, it would have been 6-5 and an equal. But as I said, I don't split them.
I find that interesting, and I don't like being forced to choose a fighter if it's truly an even round. And I really don't know why judges barely score that way either. Why do you feel compelled to give a round to a fighter, even if it's pretty even?
Just because I'm trying to make the cards realistic to what might come out, because I know that they're not going to have 10-10s. Yeah. Like, it's not that. So I'll always frame it as like, oh, I had that equal, but if I had a gun to my head, I'd have to give it to whichever way, just because I know the judges in general are going to do that. So it's not so much how I judge the fight; it's how I judge the fight mixed with a blend of sort of how the fight is going to be scored. Because it's like predicting a draw in a sport can't be a draw. Do you know what I mean? It's a waste of time for me because there's going to be a winner. Like, I know cricket's like obviously one of your big things, and when they have super overs and stuff, I know you can like bet on the to tie market, but where there's no draw, you say who's going to win. So I kind of see boxing the same way, in that because I know they're not going to give 10-10s, I'll go, well, I had it like this, but I think the judges, if I was a judge, because they don't give 10-10s, I would give it, and whatever way I would give it.
Do you feel like that needs to change when it comes to judging?
Yeah, but I mean, so much needs to change because it is super subjective. I can't remember if I said it when we recorded before, but I've judged fights before, and there's like, if you like a certain style, there was a fight I judged not too long ago, and there's a guy on it. I don't particularly know him, but I'd seen him fight before, and his style is perfect for what I like to watch. And I said to someone before the fight, it's going to be very hard for me to give rounds against this guy because he is what I like to watch. But because I knew I had that bias, I started going too far the other way. Because I was saying to myself during a round, stop giving him like rounds or points for liking him, essentially. Yeah. So then, like, he would throw a 2-punch combo and they would miss, and for me that's a 0-0. Nothing's happened. But I go, the other guys evaded that well. Like, little mental tick to the other guy, and it's like judging is very hard. And I moan about judges all the time. I moaned about him in the Allen fight, which I thought was a particularly easy one to score. But it is a very hard job. And so, yes, I think it needs fixing, but I don't know what the answer is.
No, I agree. I mean, it's funny, isn't it, how complex scoring a fight is, because a lot of judges, some judges, they favor the aggressor. If they're throwing flashy combinations which are landing on the gloves, that can be scoring rounds, for one judge, whereas another judge might just like cleaner work. So if they're landing cleaner punches but throwing less frequently, that could be winning on a judge's scorecards. But me, I'm pretty much the same. I like to keep it simple. I try and look past, the flash and how aesthetic a style is. If a fighter is landing, in my opinion, that's a round that they're winning. And for me, last night, rounds 1, 9, and 10 were just a toss-up. I had them dead even, and I watched the fight a couple times. As you know, my stream was messed up, so I had to watch it this morning. So I only caught the tail end of it last night. But I watched it today. Rounds 1, 9, and 10, I had even. So I had it 117, 114. So 6 rounds to 3 Usyk, and I had 3 rounds even. But Tyson Fury insists he won the fight just like he did in the first fight. Do you think there's any merit to that? Do you think he was, I don't want to say robbed, or do you think he was robbed? Do you think it was that close that it warrants a third fight?
No, I don't think it was that close that it warrants a third, and I don't think he was robbed. Look, I wouldn't have been too upset with a draw because, as I said, I had it 6-5 with a split. So you take that split the other way, which can easily happen, and it's 6-all. So
That's the same as mine. That's the same as mine. So I had it 6-3, but 3 rounds I had even. So if you gave those 3 even rounds to Fury, then it's a draw. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So that's just and I was convinced they wanted Fury to win to get the rubber match, the third. For the G. So again, you sort of have that in mind. But I wouldn't have been. I couldn't really make a case for Fury winning it, but I wouldn't have been at all upset with a draw. And then the thing is, you always say once you've got a draw, there's one swing round. But I think it would have been given most things to Fury, like that could have gone for him to get it to a draw. But I wouldn't have been upset. But I think if Fury had won it, by 2 or 7-5, I couldn't have made a case from that from what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could have made a case.
And also, I think no, I wouldn't. I couldn't make a case for that from what I saw. But then, the other thing from it is it also like people, especially I hate the word casuals because I'm by no means a pro, but casual fans listen to the commentators too much. Depending on who you watched it with, will make a big difference. I made a point of not watching it on TNT just because obviously they're Fury's promoters and they'd have worked with him throughout the years, and apparently TNT were giving Usyk nothing. Sky was a bit weird. Sky was a bit of a mess in that, like, they were giving Fury credit for things that didn't really happen, but they wasn't too biased, if I'm honest. And obviously, I don't know what the zone commentary was like. I don't even know who done. Oh, it would have been Adam Smith. I doubt he would have been too biased, but I don't know because I didn't listen to it. The Sky kept flashing up the cards throughout the fight, and so Shane McGuigan who was co-coms, had Usyk winning tight by 1, I think. But they kept flashing up, I don't know whose it was, but they kept flashing up a scorecard through the fight, and it had Fury basically winning at every interval, and including at the end of the fight.
Must have been Rich. Well, if that was Sky, I'm not sure, but Richie Woodall, who was, and Carl Frampton.
They were on TNT.
Yeah, they were on TNT. So Richie obviously had Fury winning. And Carl had, I think he had it a draw, or he had Fury literally by a hair. But funnily enough, Richie, I agreed with him on all the rounds, but the toss-up rounds, which I had evens 10-10, he gave them to Fury. So that's the major difference there. But for me, I think this fight was closer than the first fight. I think Fury had an excellent game plan. I really think he did, and he fooled all of us, thinking he was 280 pounds. He came in, what was it, 260 or something, just over 260. So he
I have no idea what he came in at.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like at least 15 pounds lighter than what he was on the supposed scales at the weigh-in. So I think he fought really. But I do know
the scales were weighing heavy as well, because I know Dave Allen weighed himself in the morning and was 17.9, and he weighed in at 18.5. He said I saw a thing he done on Instagram this morning, and he said he didn't even walk in the ring at 18.5 yesterday. So the scales were, and obviously Usyk came in heavier than he basically ever has done. So I think the scales were weighing a bit heavy.
Yeah, I mean for Usyk it was like a couple pounds, but for Fury apparently it was meant to be a career heaviest. So in my mind, it was
he's 281 on the scales.
That's it. Yeah. So for me, it was a clear sign of intent. I really thought he was going to come forward, take away his weapons, and try and bully him, trying to make it an offensive-minded fight, like his trainer Sugar Ray, like what's his name, Sugar Hill, likes to do, and he didn't do that at all. He kept it in the middle. He tried not to let Usyk back him up, which he did well, in pockets. But I think the cleaner work, came from Usyk, and in my preview, the early rounds were going to be key for Fury, and he did shorten in price. But then Usyk, as he always does, as we get to the halfway mark, I think I had Fury up, I think around 4 rounds to 1, with the first round being even, and then from there, as Usyk does, it's always just a matter of time before he turns the tide. He comes out more aggressive. He starts landing the left hand, and it's just a style that's just so hard to keep at bay. I think as a fighter, there's nothing he does that's like that blows you away, but he does everything so good, and he's just a winner. More importantly than anything, he just wins, and he just knows how to win. He knows how to adapt. He knows how to adjust to any style and just figure it out and get the job done. A bit like Floyd Mayweather. Obviously he's fast and he's got good IQ, but at the end of the day, he just wins. He just knows how to win against any style, against any, in any situation. Where do you think Usyk goes from here? I mean, what is there left to do? He says he doesn't want to retire. I know Dubois got in the ring for, calling for a rematch, which looks likely next. But personally, I've had enough of watching, this fluffed up middleweight, using Fury's own words, batter, our best British fighters. So what do you think is going to happen next for Oleksandr Usyk?
Personally, I would like Usyk to retire, and if he does, for me, he goes down as one of the best to ever do it. And I know that's controversial, but Olympic gold medalist, undisputed cruiserweight, undisputed heavyweight, undefeated. I think he goes down as an all-time great, but amongst the top of the all-time greats. Yeah. It was funny actually. Just on a side note, like people were talking about pound for pound, and I have him number one. And I understand people saying Crawford because of his skills, but the weight difference at the weigh-ins, and I know they're a bit dodgy because of the weigh-ins that Ades were, would be like, and the height difference, both of them would be like Crawford coming up and beating Usyk at current weight. That's the level of difference. So for me, I can't see how he's not pound for pound. And for me, as I said, in the all-time greats. And I know people have like affection for Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson or Fraser, Foreman, but for me, he's above all of them. And I know that might be controversial, but it's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, by the way. There's nothing you've said to me that's controversial. It's like, why can't someone come along that's greater than all those fighters? It's almost blasphemous to even compare fighters to the likes of, Ali or Tyson. Tyson, by the way, I think is the most overrated heavyweight
I agree. That is my controversial boxing opinion that people argue with me all the time. I think the most overrated fighter ever.
Yeah. The thing is, people conflate presence and status with their actual resume, but that's a conversation for another day. With regards to Usyk, I think, in my opinion, that it feels like it's almost too good to be true. What he's done, because
can I just?
Yeah, sure. Go
ahead.
I
just dive in quickly? Because you also said I said I would want him to retire. I'm almost certain the Daniel rematch happens because I've seen the numbers involved and you can't stand them down.
Yeah.
If Daniel beats Parker, the offer's already been made, and it was made 2 months ago, and you can't turn it down.
Yeah. I mean, Frank pretty much, shoved him in the ring, and he's gagging for that match. And I think it's likely to happen. But yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to see Usyk retire. But yeah, what I was saying was that it's almost too good to be true what he's done, because if a British fighter had done what he done, I mean, he'd be giving it every title, the order of the knighthood, MBE, everything, he'd be anointed. The fact that he's literally battered our best fighters, British heavyweights, world champions, not just once, he's beaten them in rematches as well. It's just almost unfathomable for someone who's not British or not American. I mean, Deontay Wilder, for God's sake, is a Hall of Famer. Fury and I think Anthony Joshua's got an MBE, OBE, knighthood, hundreds of millions of, sponsorship contracts. And all that's done is just it's just given us an inflated price on Usyk. So I'm so grateful that he's been underrated. Not just to the public, but to the bookies as well. But in my opinion, this little man from Ukraine has had the best career I've ever seen, the most decorated career, obviously outside, Floyd and Manny. I'm talking about this current crop of fighters. In my opinion, he's number one as well. He's ahead of Crawford. He's ahead of, Canelo, who was top of pound for pound for so long. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. What Usyk has done is unrivaled in the heavyweight division in my lifetime, and in probably the generation before that as well. So, he deserves his flowers. He's not going to get it. But that's that. With regards to Fury, where do you think he goes from here? Do you think there's going to be a rematch, or should the drum be beating for an Anthony Joshua fight?
Yeah, I think the two options are retirement or AJ, and I think AJ would probably be a 2-fight deal, one in Riyadh, one at Wembley, and it's a cash out for both of them, if you're honest, but they'll make a whole gang of cash and sail off into the sunset. I think they're the only two possible options, and I think he'll probably go down the AJ one. But it depends. I don't know him. I don't know what his thoughts are about, essentially exhibition. They're not exhibition, but you know what I mean? They're not going to get you closer to world titles. They're not going to get you closer to honours. They're just about bragging rights and cash. And obviously, I don't know Fury's feelings on that, but I think they're the only two options for him, to be honest.
What do you think Fury's legacy is? Let's say he retires now. He's beaten Deontay Wilder, who is probably the most overrated world champion of this era. And he beat a Klitschko who's at the tail end of his career away. And I know that's harsh to say, because these are things that his career sort of hinges on. Even he likes to big up Wilder a lot, because obviously that's important for his legacy. by his own admission, Oleksandr Usyk is a fluffed up middleweight or light heavyweight, whatever he calls him, losing to, a small middleweight or light heavyweight twice. What does this do to his career? Does he still go down as the best British fighter of this generation? And is he an all-time great, which a lot of people were calling him before he fought Usyk?
See, I struggle with the all-time stuff because I think in general you can only be judged in your era. I actually had this conversation with my dad last night when I was watching a fight. My dad's not a boxing man, but I was saying that George Foreman was seen as a monster of his time. He was the big man. He was the bully. He, on average, he's the same height as Oleksandr Usyk, and on average weighed in around the same, give or take a couple of pounds.
I think Foreman's a bit bigger. I think Foreman's 6'5". I think maybe Joe Frazier's probably. I think he's a bit smaller. He's closer to Usyk in height. But even Ali is like the same height as
Ali was shorter.
Yeah, he's like a cruiserweight.
Yeah, well, but this is what I'm saying. This is why you can only judge people in your time, because we've got 6'8", 6'9" monsters. Usyk's seen as small, whereas of that time, a 6'3" was a big man. Like I always tell a story. When I went to Lomachenko Campbell, I have a friend who's a big boxing man, big fan, knows he's boxing inside out, and he always said that he thought Usyk was too small to come up to heavyweight. At this time, Usyk hadn't been up with the big boys yet in terms of quality. I think he had just started campaigning at heavyweight. And my mate was saying, look, he's unbelievable. He's the most skilled boxer in the world, but, he's not big enough. And he happened to walk in front of us. It was the first time I'd met Usyk, and I clocked him walking in, and my mate hadn't. And he was stood directly in front of us. And my mate went, Jesus, look at the size of that geezer. He was filling the door. And I went, that's funny. You've been calling him too small for 2 years. And he was like, yeah, like no man that's 6'3" and, 16 stone will ever be described as small.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's just relative. It's just relative. Like I said today, you said it right. Heavyweights now are 6'10", 6'8". So anyone who's 6'3" and, and campaigns at heavyweight is seen as average, or on the smaller side. And people just lean into that more because, the British media machine is so powerful. If they say something about someone, everyone just runs with it.
Yeah. So, but going back to your question, sorry, about where does Fury go down in all-time greats and whatnot, it depends how you judge it. Like, resume nowhere near, let's be honest. I think that I'm not a Fury fan by any stretch.
Sorry, we're talking about Fury. Sorry, I was thinking of Usyk. Sorry, Fury. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, resume nowhere near all-time great. I'm not a big Fury fan. I'm certainly not a Wilder fan, but I do think the Wilder we've seen since Fury isn't a true reflection of Wilder. I think that they both took a lot out of each other, to be fair, but obviously more so Wilder because the damage he took both physically and mentally. But the reason I mention you can only be judged of your era of me is because of the size and the weight. I think Fury probably beats all of the names that are considered all-time greats from yesteryear. So I always struggle with sort of all-time greats list because I just think the way the world's advanced, science has advanced, medicine's advanced, the training methods have advanced. I really struggle with all-time greats list. So I wouldn't put him on the list due to resume. But as I said, if you were to somehow get a prime Tyson Fury against a prime Foreman, Holmes, any of them, I'd back Fury. So then on that note, how can you say he's not an all-time great if you think he beats them? So yeah, as I said, it's a personal thing. I really struggle with them.
Yeah, I mean, just quick. I mean, obviously we could take this conversation in a whole new direction and talk for ages, but I know we got to wrap this up quick. But when it comes to all-time greats, it just essentially means can you hang in any era? So Usyk is the same height as a lot of heavyweights from 20, 30 years ago. But don't forget, George Foreman was world champion, I think, only in the last decade. And he was 6'5" and he was knocking out modern day heavyweights. But the point you made about, modern day medicine and technology, I think that's a myth because you see a lot of guys gas out in 12 rounds. I don't think they're hitting any harder or their chins have gotten any better. They used to fight 15 rounds back in the day. So I think boxing is one of the sports where, old school training works best, I guess. I mean, obviously there's a lot of cheats now and there's a lot of advanced medicines when it comes to, steroids, but legally and naturally, I don't think today's crop of fighters are any fitter or stronger. They're probably taller. And I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe because, the pool of talent is bigger. A lot more people are fighting now. But with regards to, performance-wise, I think if you're an all-time great, you can hang in any era. And I think the likes of Foreman or Larry Holmes, would be able to hang, even in this era as well. But like I said, that's a conversation for another day. But, yeah, I mean, look, we'll wrap it up here. I think, you made a great. We both.
Can I just cut in quickly before you summarise?
Yeah, sure.
Foreman was only a centimetre taller than Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali was 6'2", so he was about the same height as Usyk.
I think he was bigger. I'm pretty sure Foreman was around 6'5".
I've just googled it because I was sure. I know I've seen that fact before because I use it all the time. So I hope it is right that Usyk's about the same size as him. So I've just googled it and it's got him down as 192 centimeters, which is 6'2", 6'3".
Foreman.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I got to check that because I'm pretty sure he was bigger. He's bigger than Ali.
How tall was George Foreman? I've just googled it and it says 192. Joe Frazier was 182, which is really small.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry. Wikipedia, which obviously not the most reliable, but it's got Foreman as 6'4" and Usyk 6'3". So it's not like a. Yeah. As I said, but Foreman was the monster of the time. He was the big guy. He was massive. Now Usyk's the midget, and there's a hair's breadth between them.
No, you're 100% right. And I've never bought into that argument that he's a small heavyweight, like a lot of people said. I think it's just a lazy argument, when you get these pundits saying, a good big one beats a small little one. It's just a lazy argument. 8-inch weight discrepancies and 50-pound weight discrepancies are pretty normal in the heavyweight division. But it's just the manner in which Usyk has come in and just beaten everyone. I don't want to say easily, but he's figured everyone out, and he shut them out over 12 rounds or he's knocked him out late. It's just incredible. I don't think we see anything like that for a long time. I think we're not, well, I do, but a lot of people aren't going to appreciate him until he's gone. This level of dominance, he's beat everyone on the road, away from home, in their backyard for their titles. It's just crazy. Not just a cruiserweight, but just at heavyweight as well. So, we need to give him his flowers and just appreciate him for while he's here. I think Fury is the best British fighter of this generation, heavyweight-wise. And beating Anthony Joshua would put a stamp on that. But if that fight comes to fruition, we will review it. I think we've got a monster card coming up in February, so I'll definitely have you back on the pod for that, and we'll go through those fights one by one. There's going to be a lot of value in the markets over there. So
there already is. I told you this after the podcast the other day.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, I think we'll wait for the markets probably just to level out a bit. There's one bet which I'm planning on getting on, which we spoke about. I won't reveal that just yet because I'm going to take on that value before it comes in price. But we'll definitely review that again closer to the fight. But guys, if you want to access my betting and trading previews and be part of my Discord channel where you can chat with us both amongst other traders across several sports, where we share trades, we discuss ideas, and I release my previews, then click the link in the bio. Otherwise, make sure you're at least subscribed. Like and share this video and leave your thoughts. How did you score the fight? Was Fury robbed? Should we see a trilogy? Should he fight AJ? Should Dubois be chasing Usyk for a rematch? After all, I've seen my fair share of British heavyweights take a pasting from the fluffed up middleweight from Ukraine. But let me know your thoughts, guys, and I'll see you soon.